All right, everybody, how's it going? Happy afternoon. It's 3 o'clock here in Chicago. For the past couple minutes, I've left you here alone as I went downstairs and across the street to 7-Eleven to get a Dr. Pepper. And it's good to be back. So, today is our, I don't know, maybe the 8th installment of our summer webinar series at Loop Community, where we're just kind of tackling a bunch of different topics that are hopefully going to help you in using loops and multitracks in worship. Yesterday we talked about the loop to miss foot controller and all the different stuff you can do with that. A couple days ago, Christian Ponsford talked to us about how to sync Pro Presenter and Ableton Live together, which is pretty rad. All of these webinars you can watch on our YouTube channel. And if you're interested in finding other webinars, just go to our Facebook page. But I hope everybody's doing okay today, wherever you're watching from. If you are watching on our YouTube page, if you could put your name in the comment box and what church you're from, it'd be cool just for me to know kind of who's all here, who I'm talking to, so it doesn't feel like I'm just talking to myself here at the Loop Community offices. Anyways, hello Kent Ferris, glad you're here. Benjamin, welcome from Redwood Chapel Church. Jeremy Brown, welcome from Radiant Church in Ann Arbor. Steve, welcome all the way from Maryland. Evan, welcome, North Carolina, New Life Church. Dan, welcome from Bloomington. Paul Feinberg. All right, cool. Well, we're going to get started. So today what we're going to talk about is customizing your loop and multi-track arrangements in Ableton Live. So when you download a track from somewhere, hopefully it's Loop Community, what happens when maybe you just need to customize a little bit, you want to add something to it, or maybe you want to kind of change the arrangement up. Maybe you don't like how there's 2 choruses after the bridge and you want to make it 1 chorus. Or maybe the intro is too long and you want to shorten that up. How do we fix that? And so we're going to just dive into Ableton Live. Now you could do, of course, you can edit your tracks with any music software that you want. You could use GarageBand, Logic, Pro Tools, Audacity, whatever. My software of choice is Ableton Live, and so we're going to look at Ableton Live today. And we're going to talk about how to just edit and customize your song arrangements. So let's go and just get started. I'm going to pop over into Live. Joe Thompson, welcome from Baltimore. All right, also, as I'm going, if you guys have any questions at all, just go ahead and type them into the comment box, and I'll try to address them as we move. Also, you might want to watch the YouTube video at full screen, high quality, and you'll be able to see a lot more detail. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I've got a track here in session view, and it is for Christ is Enough. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play on that so we can hear it. Let me turn the volume up.
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
Alright, so this is a track for Christ is Enough. Cool song by Hillsong Worship. It's actually our featured, Hillsong's our featured artist for this month. So make sure you check out our featured artist. You can download an MP3 chord chart and multi-track for Christ is Enough. Check that out. Anyway, so I got this song in here. I just dragged the clips in. Let me actually go and just start from scratch. You can kind of see what I'd be doing. So I've got my folders over here of all my worship songs. Here's Christ is Enough. I'm going to drag in all of these stems by just holding Shift to select all of them, and then click and drag over into session view, and notice that it's trying to drop them in vertically. Well, I'm going to hold Command, and it'll drop them in horizontally. That's a nice tip trick. I'm going to go ahead and hit play and see what happens. Now,
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
First thing I'm noticing as I click on these different tracks is I notice that the volume on all of them are pretty low. And you can just tell visually. I can hear it, but I can also see it visually. But versus the band cues, look how loud the band cues are. So every single clip here, if you double click on it, there's a little gain control, and you can turn down the volume or turn it up. So what we want to do is I want to first of all just match the volume on these. And you don't have to do them all one at a time. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold Shift and select the first clip, and then hold Shift and select the last clip. And now I can adjust the volume of all of those tracks together. And what I want to do is I want to get it just so it's more volume overall.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
So let's just go and turn it up. I'm going to kind of just watch the green faders. I can skip ahead by clicking and dragging the measure bar to kind of get to like a loud part. Here we go. Let's go ahead and turn it down just a little bit. Okay, so now I think my band cues are probably screaming loud. So let's go ahead and just kind of turn those down manually, because those were just by nature already louder than everything else. Okay, so I've got my tracks. Now, first thing I like to do is, let's go ahead and drag these over into arrangement view, because we're going to edit this track. Now what's cool is that arrangement view and session view work together. And the way that they work together is that the same tracks that exist in session view also exist in arrangement view. It's just flipped horizontally versus vertically. So to get those clips from session view into arrangement view, you can do a couple things. You could copy and paste. I'm just going to hold shift, select them all, and you can click and drag it over to the arrangement view icon and then back over to the left hand side and back into arrangement view. Now notice that all of the tracks are grayed out. Now this throws a lot of people off. I'm playing it, but I don't hear it, right? Well, I hear it, but it's not doing what I'm telling it to do. So there's a little button here that says it's called the Back to Arrangement View button. And what that means is literally it's saying, okay, we're playing audio in session view, but do you want to hear audio in arrangement view? And if you do, then let's hit the Back to Arrangement View button and say, okay, now we're going back to arrangement view. We're going to listen to audio in this view. So you hit that. Okay, then the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that the tempo box in the top left corner of the screen is the tempo of the song. So I know Christ is Enough is at 80 BPM, so let's go and set this to 80. This is a very important step because as we start editing this track, you want to make sure that you're on the grid. See these little gray vertical lines? This is the grid. You can kind of see the bar counts, bar 21, 22, 23. And what we want to have happen is as we're editing this, we want it to be snapping. If we weren't on the grid, it would be very, very hard to get things to line up properly. So make sure you get on the grid first. That should be your very first step. Okay, so Benjamin asked a question. What do you use to create your tracks? I personally use Ableton. I've used Reason for a long, long time. I love Reason. But I've recently switched over just to Ableton completely. But they're both great programs. I know a lot of guys who are making tracks in Logic. Logic has some awesome sounds. Most of our contributors at Loop Community seem to be making their tracks in Ableton or Logic. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I want to go ahead and just kind of like map out this song. Now I can look at those band cues and see where the sections of the song are. And what I want to do is I don't want to guess. I'll be like, okay, yeah, verse is bar 11 through 19. I'm going to add little markers, and there's a little button here in the top right corner that says set. And when you click set, it adds a little flag, this little marker guy. And you can right-click on that marker and title it. So let's just call this intro. I think that's the intro. Notice also if you put your mouse up here at the top, in the ruler, it gives you a little headphone.
Intro,
if you click there, it will play from where you selected. So there's the intro. Let's go ahead and add another marker. This looks like it's going to be the verse. And I'm just looking at the cues here. You can kind of see where the sections are. It's really nice. So I'm going to call this verse. And this next one.
Pre-chorus. 2.
Okay,
3.
cool. Here's the pre-chorus. And right here,
Chorus. 2.
Here's the chorus.
3. 4.
Now this takes a little bit of time to do, but
Verse. 2.
it's worth it because when we're editing this really quickly, now I can just look
2. 3.
and I know where the sections of the song are. I don't have to guess.
Chorus. 2.
Okay, here's a chorus. So it is definitely worth the time that you put in
Interlude.
to do this. Let's go and hit the sub button again. If you wanted to, you could warp these tracks, speed it up, and let it play.
Bridge. 2.
And then even assign a hotkey to the set button. And you could probably label this thing in about 20 seconds. Maybe not 20
Bridge.
seconds.
2. 3. 4.
But it definitely would be fast. I'm kind of jumping around.
Chorus. 2. 3. 4.
Alright, chorus. Hope you guys are all with me here. Let's get through this.
Chorus.
I didn't want to do this like the cooking show where everything just magically appears. I wanted to do this in front of you
Bridge 2.
so you could actually see what's going on here and how this works. Okay.
Bridge 2, 3.
Bridge, cool. And then our last one, what is this? It's probably end or something.
End 2, 3, 4.
Okay. Okay. End. All right. So, Benjamin asked a question about sounds. The 3 versions of Live, you definitely, if you want more sounds, you definitely need to be upgrading. Live Lite doesn't come with hardly any sounds at all. So if you're going to be really using this to make software, I would recommend getting Standard or Suite. Okay, so we mapped it out. Let's go ahead and start kind of editing the arrangement. So let's listen to the beginning.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so I like that. That's good. Let's just say that down here.
Verse 2, 3, 4.
Okay, let's just say that actually for this weekend, I'm going to be doing like an extended like prayer or something at the beginning of the set or the beginning of this song, and I want that intro to be twice as long. Well, the way to edit it, there's a trick you can do, and we're going to use this little bracket up here at the top of the screen. This is called the loop bracket. And if you set it so it highlights the entire section that you want to loop, so I'm going to set the beginning to the intro and then to the verse. So this is the section I want to repeat. I'm going to right click on this bracket and go to duplicate time. And if I click duplicate time, it's going to add 2 intros. So let's go ahead and hit play now. But notice that it also duplicated that cue, so let's just go and click and drag to delete that cue. You could also highlight if you wanted and hit the delete key. If I wanted to do another cue here for the intro, I could just copy and paste this cue over here.
Intro 2.
So I'm just going to highlight it, do Command C for copy, and then let's paste it in right here.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Now we're back into the intro. You probably also noticed that the piano lead line didn't start, and that's because it was just a hard copy and paste. So here's where the piano starts. Let's go and kind of do that lead line in. I can just click and drag back, and it's going to add that little
Intro 2, 3, 4.
there we go. Cool. So now we've got 2 intros. And let's just say, let's go and keep scrolling over. I like the verse, I like the pre-chorus. Verse, pre-chorus. Okay, let's look at this interlude here and see what happens.
2, 3, 4.
Alright, so I want this interlude to be actually half the length.
Bridge 2.
So, I mean, it's the normal length, but I just want it to be half of it. So I'm gonna use the loop bracket again. I'm just going to show you real quick what would happen if I didn't use the loop bracket. So if you just decided that you didn't want half of that bridge, what you could do is I'm going to go ahead and collapse all these tracks by hitting the little arrows. This is going to kind of give us a little bit more real estate. Now I can do them all at once by just holding Shift and collapse. Alright, let me show you what would happen if you didn't use the bracket. So if I just decided, alright, I want to highlight this section and then delete. So that's cool. It deleted half of it, but notice what happens is now I have to like click and drag and move these over. But now that I moved them over, none of the markers moved with it. So it's all a mess. So you don't want to do it like that. This is where the bracket is really helpful because I can bring the bracket in, select half of the interlude, and I can right click on the bracket and go to delete time. And it's going to take that section within the bracket and just delete it. And it's also going to move all the markers over with it, which is very helpful. So let's go and hit play and see what it sounds like.
Interlude 2, 3, 4. Bridge 2, 3, 4.
Okay, cool. So a question that Dan has is, are these copied clips automatically crossfading? And the answer is no. So they are hard cuts. However, there are crossfades in every track. So for example, let's look at the synth here.
Bridge.
Let's look at
3, 4.
Yeah, we can look at the synth. So I'm going to just solo the synth. And you'll notice that over here there are some parameters you can look at. And let's look at fades. And it's going to show us just how the fades are working. And I can click and drag on these fades to change how that crossfade actually works. And you could like change it so it's a longer fade if you want, whatever you want to do. Cool, so now that's in there a little bit longer. So it's not a completely hard stop. We can do the same thing with the piano. Let's look at the fades for this one. I'm going to click and drag it out because I do want to get that tail off. It kind of like fades because otherwise it was a pretty abrupt, hard start. Same thing with the dulcimer. Let's look at that. So right now it's just a hard stop. But let's go ahead and make it so it fades out. Cool. Hopefully that answers your question. And now I can just select all these tracks if I want and hide the fades by clicking fades and then going to none. And it's cleaned up a little bit as far as visually.
Interlude 2, 3, 4.
Okay, cool.
Bridge 2, 3, 4.
So now it's going to go to the bridge. We're going to do those full bridges, 2 choruses, bridge, and an outro. Okay, so also the other thing I realized is this song, it feels a little slow to me. So if you want to speed it up, we can definitely speed it up. However, what we need to do is we need to use a feature called warping. So what we're going to do is we have to warp all of these tracks. So I'm just going to do a select all, and I'm going to hit warp. I'm going to change our warp mode to complex. Now this is a feature that comes with standard or suite. If you have live intro, you're only going to have tones and texture. You could use tones or texture, just kind of pick whichever one sounds better. It really depends on what you're warping. So let's go to complex. Now that everything's warped, because it's warped, I can now change the master tempo to speed it up.
Verse 2, 3,
or slow it down. Let's go and click on the chorus so we can hear it. So it might be a little fast, right? So let's just say I decided, the original was 80, now I want to do it at 82. And also, let's just say as well that this is in the key of B, but I usually sing it in C. So we want to transpose it, and there's a little knob down here that says transpose, and now that it's warped we can also transpose. The important thing though to know is you probably don't want to transpose tambourines or drums or percussion because you just don't need to. So I'm going to just select all by just doing Command A, and then I can just hold Shift, or actually I could hold Command and deselect the ones that I don't want. So there's the tambourine. I don't want to pitch the drums, and that's about it. Oh, I also don't want to pitch the cues, so that's good. And now let's go ahead and just pitch everything up a half step, and now we're in the key of C. Let's see what that sounds like. I could also just keep going.
Verse 2, 3, 4.
Let's skip ahead here and hear what it sounds like.
3, 4.
So now it's in the key of C,
2, 3, 4.
which is what I usually play it in. Okay, cool. So we've changed the tempo, we've changed the key, we've kind of edited the arrangement to be how we want it. What else could we maybe want to change? Sometimes I'll actually be adding instruments. So let's just say that, let's look at the chorus. So I actually really would like to get a shaker on this verse. So I'm going to go to my, I have a folder in my computer called percussion where I keep a lot of shaker sounds, or I've got a few here. just 2. And I want to add a shaker in. Now these percussion sounds you can get Loop Community if you just go to SoundPark. SoundPark's full of tons of sounds like this. So here's a shaker. I can just drag that in here. And you can quantize audio by just doing Command A and do Command U. It's going to lock that shaker into place. Smooth it out by changing it to complex. If you click and drag, it's going to automatically loop that shaker for me. So I want it to drop out on the chorus. And let's just do a copy and paste. I want it to come back in here and play through here and then drop out at the bridge. Cool, so I added a shaker.
Chorus, 2, 3, 4.
Cool. Now you could just keep adding as many instruments as you want to this. More sounds, you could record your vocals, you could put an acoustic guitar on here, a bass, drums, whatever. Now let's just say we're done customizing it as far as this is the arrangement we want. So next thing you want to do is you want to name your tracks. Right now they're all just Audio 1, Audio 2, Audio 3. Let's name them what they should be. So I'm just going to do a Command R for rename. And this is Arpeggiator 1. Let's go down, Arpeggiator 2, down arrow, Bright Pad, Cues, Drum Loop, Dulcimer, Piano, Synth, Tambourine, Warm Pad, and our shaker. Cool, so I've got my tracks. Now what we're going to do is if we were to try to drag these tracks over into Session View, it's not going to work. And the reason it's not going to work is because there's all sorts of these different edits and cuts. So you have a couple options here. We could highlight everything and then right-click and go to Consolidate. And what that's going to do is it's going to kind of link or glue all of these little cuts together so that then they're just solid, full-length WAV files. Then we could click and drag and bring those back over here just by copying and pasting and dragging. That's not my preferred method. I prefer to go ahead and just kind of save a brand new set of files because I want them available to me very easily next time I play this song. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just a Command A, which selects all, and I'm going to go to File and Export Audio, and it's going to bring up your export settings. And if, by the way, if you're contributing to Loop Community, this is almost the exact same thing you would do as well. So instead of exporting the master, because if I exported the master, it's going to give me one audio file that has all of this stuff just mixed in together. That's not what we want. What I want is I'm going to click here and go to individual tracks. And now it's going to export each track as its own audio file. So render start is 1 bar, and then bar 1 to bar 116, which is good. That's what I have selected here. WAV files 44.1 16-bit. That looks all good. Hit export, and let's go. I'm just going to save this to the desktop by hitting just new folder and call it Christ is Enough McCoy version. And this is just where I'm going to save my files. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to name them very carefully. I'm going to call it Christ is Enough _McCoy, and then I'm going to put what these tracks are. So I changed the BPM to 82, so they're at 82, and they're also in the key of C now. And then if you leave an underscore at the end, it's going to, what it's going to do is it's going to append the track title to the end of this file, which is great. So let's hit save, and it's going to go ahead and start exporting. And while it's doing that, let me go ahead and look at the comment box if you guys have any questions, because this might take maybe 2 minutes or so. Let me look at the comments and see what's going on here. Evan asks, why, do you know of any reason of why I could be getting the rainbow pinwheel when launching Ableton? Make sure you download the correct bit version of Ableton, 64-bit or 32-bit. I would recommend just getting the 32-bit for your machine. That could be a problem. Go to ableton.com, make sure you download the latest version, and make sure it's the version that fits your machine as far as what your processor is. Kent Ferris asks, how do you add the cool dividers in your dock? I like it. Well, Kent, it's a great question. I'm pretty sure that what I did is I just Googled for dock dividers, and it gives you a folder. You can download a zip file of a bunch of, basically they're fake applications. If I were to click on one of these, so this is actually an application, but it's not really an application. It just looks like an application, which is how it fits in the dock. If you click it, it actually won't open anything. So you can download dock dividers. All right, Benjamin says, do you think it's kind of a no-no to have backing tracks with orchestration, like a string section, if you don't have a string player on stage? No. I think if I understand your question correctly, I think that's definitely the whole point of using tracks. Is, you know, if you are trying to play Our God is Greater and the beginning of it has that string part, dun 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 dun, but you don't have a string player, then tracks is definitely the way to do that and actually have the string part, because it's kind of a signature part of the song. And a lot of people can't do it unless you actually have a real orchestra. So I think that's definitely a plus of using tracks. Okay, so it looks like these are done exporting, which is cool. All right. First of all, I'm going to go and save this by just going to File Save, because I never saved it. And let's go to Desktop. I'm actually going to save it in the folder with my new arrangement. Just organization is really important here. We'll just call this Crisis Enough C 82. That way, if I ever need to come back and edit it again, it's there. All right, so now that this is like my edited custom version of Crisis Enough, I'm going to go to File New, and we're going to build like our new worship set with it. We're going to come back to this eventually. So let's go back to Session View here, and we're going to, now that I have those new files, I can drag them into my worship set. So let's just say our first song is Christ is Enough. And I can go find that file. I just put it on my desktop, but if I wouldn't recommend doing that, I would keep one folder on your computer where all of your tracks are. And now I can just click and drag and drop. And here's my new custom arrangement of Christ is Enough. Let's edit the launch BPM as well, 82 BPM.
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
Cool, so there's my custom arrangement. Now I can add in my next song if you wanted to. You know, I've got, let's say I'm going to do Come to the Water. Click and drag these in. I don't want to bring in the click. There we go.
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so something I want to talk about now is what happens if you want to kind of do a spontaneous thing. So let's go, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go back to our last session. Let me go and save this one just in case for some reason we need to come back to it. We'll call it our worship set. Let's go back to our other edit. So Christ is Enough. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drag in the audio files brand new. So I'm just going to select all, hit delete. Notice all my markers are still there, which is great. But what I want to do is I just want like a clean version here. So I'm just going to select these and drop them in. And let's make sure they all line up. I'm just going to...
2, 3, 4.
Cool.
Verse 2.
Looks like they're all lining up to the
4.
markers, which is good. Great. Okay, so what I want to do is I actually want to, in this view, I want to make it so I can kind of customize and jump around all I want. So first of all, I'm going to delete these files again out of Session View. And let's go and kind of bring in a fresh group of files. So click and drag them in. All right, and this one, I'm going to call this scene, we're going to rename it, we're going to call it Christ is Enough. Or let's just call it Christ right now. And I'm going to also call it Christ Full Track. So on this scene, what's going to happen is when I play this scene, it's going to play the entire track all the way through. Let's
Intro.
set the
2,
tempo.
3, 4.
That was still set from 80 from before. Okay, so now we're going to drag in our sections. I want this scene to be intro, and this scene is going to be verse, and this scene is going to be pre-chorus, and then chorus, and then I want a bridge. And that'll be it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this view to create our sections. And I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just going to highlight the sections that I want. So I'm going to choose intro, but what I want to do is I want it to be so when I play the intro, it's actually going to play the whole song. So I'm just going to highlight the whole song starting from the intro. I'm going to do a Command-C for copy, and then I'm going to paste it into this view. Now when I hit play on intro, it should just be playing the intro. Cool. But it started at the intro, and it's going to play all the way through the entire song. Let's go and get a verse now. I'm going to highlight the verse, but I'm also going to highlight the entire song. The reason I'm doing this is because if I decide I want to be spontaneous, but then I don't want to have to keep telling it where to go, now it's just going to play the entire song afterwards. Alright, let's go to chorus. So I'm just going to highlight the chorus again, the entire song. Whoops, sorry, I did pre-chorus. I should have done pre-chorus. My bad. Here's the pre-chorus. Copy, paste, let's check it. Cool. Let's go back to the chorus. Highlight the chorus. Copy, and let's do the bridge. Okay, copy, paste. Alright, so now I've got my sections. I can jump around all I want, right? Let's go to the chorus. 3, 4. Let's go to the bridge. 3, 4. Let's go to the pre-chorus if we want. Ready? Let's go to the chorus. So now we can jump around all we want. Now notice there's no band cues. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new band cue track. I'm going to go to Create, Insert Audio Track, and we're going to call this Spontaneous Cues. And these are going to be used for when I'm jumping around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to load these up with cues. Let's go to my user library and go to Samples, Imported, and here is my band cue pack that I imported. You can download this band cue pack for free from Loop Community if you want. What I'm going to do is go ahead and find an intro cue.
Intro.
That one's Spanish.
Intro.
Here we go. Let's drop that in here. Let's find a verse.
Verso.
There's another Spanish one. Here's an English one. Let's do pre-chorus. Pre-coro.
Precoro.
Let's do pre-chorus. And chorus. Coro.
Coro.
Let's do English. Where is chorus? There we go.
Chorus.
Drag it in. And let's do bridge.
Bridge.
Okay, cool. So I've got my bridge. Now notice what happens when I jump around. Let's just see what happens. Verse.
Verse.
Let's go to the chorus. Ready? 1, 2. Click it. Chorus.
Chorus.
Now if you notice, it's a problem because these are firing at the exact same time as the chorus, which really defeats the purpose of a band cue. So I'm going to right-click. I'm going to double-click on the chorus, and down here I'm going to set the quantization for that clip to be none. So right now it's using global, which means it's using this right here, 1 bar. So all of these tracks are going to wait 1 bar, but I want the chorus to go right away, so I'm going to say none. Let's go and make the same thing for all of these. I want these all to be none. Well, at least just all these spontaneous cues. So now it'll work like this. Let's just say I want to go to the intro.
Intro. 2,
So let's just say I want to go to the verse, okay?
4.
Ready? Here we go.
Verse.
There's our cue, and now it goes to the verse. Let's say we want to go to the chorus.
Chorus.
Bridge.
Bridge.
So these are all waiting 1 bar. These are firing right away. It's kind of working as if you were to shout to your band. Verse, chorus, and so forth. Okay, so Dan asks, If you're doing impromptu arrangements for multiple songs in a set, how does that look in the arrangement view? Is just each bank of tracks one after another? Typo, my bad. Is it just each bank of tracks on? Is it just each bank of tracks on after another? Okay, what I think you're saying is if you're going to use arrangement view and you want to kind of jump around, yeah, what you'd have to do is you would bring in every single song and put it in back to back down the timeline. And then go ahead and mark them out. You would also have to draw in a tempo change down here in the master, which is kind of a pain, honestly. And I feel like this is a huge benefit of using session view versus arrangement view. I like arrangement view for editing songs and chopping them up, recording, making your own music, but I like session view for running tracks because if you were to, well, first of all, it's a pain drawing in tempos, and second of all, if you wanted to rearrange a song, it's really, really hard to take this song and move it over to the beginning, because you have to also then redraw in your tempo change. You'd have to add in all of these locators because those don't move with it. It's a total pain. So, but yeah, if you know what you're going to do and you're going to build it like that, then that's totally cool. Use arrangement view, put in all your locators. Just know, though, that these locators don't move around with the songs if you rearrange them. So you have to redo that all over. In session view, what's cool is you can click and drag and reorganize your songs all you want. It just takes maybe a little bit longer because you have to map them out. Now, if you really think you're going to start kind of customizing arrangements like this, where you can jump around, what you might want to do is just export these sections as they're on their own. So what you could do, let's just say we wanted to export the intro. I could highlight the intro like this, and then go to File, Export, and I could either export individual tracks, which actually probably I would do, individual tracks, and hit Export. And now in this folder, I'm going to make a subfolder. I'm going to call it Verse. And I'm going to just go, let's just call it Verse _. What it's going to do now is it's going to create audio files that are just the verse section. This actually, in the long run, if you're going to be making a lot of worship sets like this, might be the fastest way to go. So, because now if I look at Christ is Enough verse, you can kind of see the files that are in here. Verse, drum loop, and now those are the files that I would bring into session view. That might be the fastest way to go. Sorry, that was the intro. I should have named it intro. And let's do the verse. So you would just do each section, exporting them as their own bunch of audio files, and then you can drag them into any worship set you want. The benefit of that is that then every time you don't have to bring it into arrangement view and copy and paste. So that's it. That's a good question. Does anybody have any more questions about that kind of thing?
Verse.
Any questions at all about custom arrangements?
Pre-chorus. 2, 3, 4. Chorus. 2, 3, 4. Verse. 2, 3, 4.
One thought about Ableton Live is that if you are going to be able to, if you do want to jump, make a bunch of different sections like this, just know that in Live Intro you can only have 8 rows at a time, which means you probably couldn't do a full set of a bunch of songs with their own sections. So you need to upgrade to Live Standard or Suite, and then I'll give you unlimited rows. Alright, cool. We're just about to wrap up here. I'm going to leave the floor open for any questions that you might have. While we're doing that, let me just talk about, let's just say that you actually wanted to run these tracks now in Prime. our app on the website. What's cool is those stems that we exported on our desktop, we can zip those up into a zip folder and then go to the website. Let me see if I can load that up here. Go to the website, and if you hit the button at the top of the screen that says upload, we can click on Prime, hit upload tracks. There's a bunch of instructions here, just follow those instructions. Hit upload tracks, and you can upload your zip file, name it, put the artist name, key, BPM, hit upload, and it will show up automatically in our app within just a couple minutes. So if you download a track that you really need to customize, bring it into Ableton, customize it, re-export it like we did, and then zip it up, and then send it to Prime. And that's how you can get your custom arrangements in there. Let's look and see if there's any more questions.
Chorus, 2, 3, 4.
Alright, so Benjamin asks, okay, how do you export the tracks as individual tracks, and why? The reason you want to export them as individual tracks is we want each track to be its own audio file. To export, you just go to Command-A to select everything, and then go to File, Export Audio. The default option is going to be Master. If you choose Master, what it's going to do is it's just going to export one audio file that's a mixture of all of these tracks, which would not do us any good. Maybe it would if you're going to listen to it on your iPod or something. But it's not going to be good for us because then we can't bring them in as individual tracks in our worship set. So you want to export them as individual tracks. Just click that drop down, choose individual tracks, hit export. And now it's going to give us a separate audio file for each instrument. Steve says, can you talk about how to actually move from section to section during worship with a mouse? Okay, let's go back to the other, what we're looking at here. If you want to jump around, you could use a mouse, but I wouldn't do that. Let's just say you want your drummer or your keyboard player to do it. We're going to assign keyboard commands to our laptop. So I want the keys on my keyboard to just be different sections. To do that, I can just click the key button. And now anything that you see that turned orange can be assigned to a key. So I'm going to click on Crisis Enough, and it's going to be button 1. And then intro is going to be A, verse is B, pre-chorus is C, chorus is D, and bridge is E. And then let's leave key mapping mode. And now those keys on my keyboard are going to trigger those different sections. So let's hit 1 to start the song. Let me turn it up a little bit.
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
Alright, now let's go ahead and hit A, and it's going to go back to the intro.
Intro.
Let's go to the verse, hit B.
Verse.
Let's go to C for the
Pre-chorus.
chorus. So you could use your keyboard if you want. I would recommend, though, using a foot controller. Now, we've got a foot controller that Loop Community developed, and it's called Looptimus. And I actually did a webinar yesterday about Looptimus. If you're interested, go to our Loop Community page, and you can watch that webinar. But this is Looptimus. It's a foot controller that lets you, as a worship leader, use your feet to start and stop your tracks. So what it does is it has next and previous buttons, and these buttons cycle through the songs. So right now, there's 20 songs. You can have 20 songs, and each song can have Section A, Section B, Section C, Section D, Section E, and Section F. And you can assign these buttons to those different sections. Same way that we just assigned our keyboard mappings. So what I would do is I would go to Song 1, which is Christ is Enough, and then I would assign this button to intro, this button to pre-chorus, this button to chorus, bridge, etc. And then stop kills all the tracks. And it's really easy to assign. All you do is you plug in the controller, and then you go to Live, and in the top right corner there's a button that says MIDI. So we hit the key button earlier to assign keyboard shortcuts. But if you hit the MIDI button, now anything that turns blue can be assigned to an external controller like Looptimus. And you click on what you want it to control, and then hit the button on the foot controller, and it assigns it immediately. It's very easy. It literally takes like 13 seconds. So that's how you could use a foot controller to jump around your song arrangement. If you wanted to run it in this view, you can also do some arrangements by just clicking on these little arrows, or double click on them, and then click on it once, and it's going to jump around to the different arrows. And what's cool is that Ableton uses quantization, which means it's going to wait one bar to do what I tell it to do. So when I tell it to go to the verse, it's not going to go to the verse until the next downbeat. So same thing, you can hit the MIDI button and also assign a controller to all these different sections. You could also hit the key button if you want and assign a key to any of these sections. So intro is A, verse is B, pre-chorus is C, chorus is D, verse is E. And let's leave key mapping mode, and I can jump around now by using my keyboard.
Intro.
We need to click the back to arrangement view button over here this side.
Verse.
Okay, the reason it keeps jumping back to session view is because I already have those key commands set up in this view as well. So I would want to delete these. Just click on them and then hit the delete key. Now let's go back and check it out. There we go. So that's pretty interesting. It looks like session view always trumps arrangement view. Maybe that is a little bit maybe that says something. Anyways, I highly recommend using session view to run these tracks. Any other questions at all? I'm going to play some music, and we'll look at some questions, and we'll wrap up here in a few minutes.
Verse.
Pre-chorus, 2, 3, 4. Chorus, 2, 3, 4. Verse, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, cool. Well, we're going to wrap up here.
Pre-chorus.
I can kind of hang out and chat for a little bit if you guys have any more questions. I'm going to wrap up so you guys can go if you want. First, I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of Loop Community. You know, there's a lot of guys who are making their own tracks, so there's some other websites out there where you can buy tracks, and I just want to say that it means a lot that you would support Loop Community and buy your tracks through Loop Community because, one, it literally supports local worship leaders. There are worship leaders all over the world who are uploading tracks to Loop Community, and every time you purchase one, it puts money in their pockets, which is really helpful for those of us who are worship leaders, you know. And thank you just so much for just supporting Loop Community and choosing to buy tracks there. It really makes a huge difference. And if you guys are making tracks, be sure to upload them and contribute them to the community. It really is a community. That's what we're about. We're about helping each other do this better and provide resources for one another. And this whole training and summer webinar series is about that. And so if you guys can really help us out and spread the word, and if you guys have worship leader friends or Facebook pages or Twitter accounts where you can help just spread the word about Loop Community, help us get the word out. And we want everybody to be a part. So thanks so much for joining us today. Hope this was helpful. You can always rewatch it on our YouTube channel, and you can also rewatch all of our other webinars that we've done so far on our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.